Hello! Welcome to Thursdays with Ted. Just kidding, it's Mark Conlock, Director of Horticulture, Green Bay Botanical Garden. Belated Monday with Mark here due to extreme weather conditions of rainfall. So I wanted to share with you today a couple tips about buying plants, because I know Memorial Day weekend, it's a great time to go out there, buy annuals, buy vegetables. Everybody's excited for the gardening season. So as you get out there, staying socially distant, wearing your mask and doing your shopping, got a couple tips of things to look for when you're buying plants. So, I mean, kind of basic tip, don't buy this. It's kind of like going downhill, looking bad. You might be tempted to buy, something like on this edge here or later in the season, something that's been cleaned up. But one thing that you could do that people don't often do at a nursery is actually take the plant and take a look at the root system. I mean, you can see on this guy here that its roots are brown. If they're brown, black, if they smell, that's usually an anaerobic, bacteria. So that's not a good sign, because the roots are bad and the roots are the basis for the top growing. So that's why this top looks bad, because the roots actually rotted. So when you get a plant, you're going to probably be drawn to this guy anyway, but you can feel free to pop it out and see that the roots are white. That's how they should be. These guys are getting a little brown because of us overwatering, but they should be nice and white, have little root hairs, have lateral roots and things like that. So don't be afraid to do this, especially with like trees and shrubs and perennials and things that are going to last a long time in your landscape. You don't want to have and start with a bad root system. Another thing on plants that you can look for is like multiple tillers or side shoots, because that means these guys will eventually get tall, have flower buds, and you'll have a more big, fuller plant. So instead of just like a little one guy in a pot, look for ones that have multiple shoots coming up, because you'll have a fuller, bigger plant. So you'll be buying kind of more for your buck, So that's a couple of basic things to do. Other thing to think about when you're buying your plants is maybe think a little bit about how much you want to take care of them. There's some beautiful geraniums we have here, this Galaxy series in honor of Star Wars. Dun, dun. Wait, that's the wrong music. Oh my God. Anyway, there's like this whole series, but remember these geraniums, they go downhill over time. You have to deadhead them to keep them flowering. So just think about, if you want to do that, that's okay. I mean, it is kind of zen-like and relaxing to take care of your plants and gives you, some garden therapy. But if you don't like doing that stuff, then maybe think about a different plant, like this little Kupfia here. This guy is an AAS winner, and it's self-cleaning. You don't have to do any work on it, or some of these other plants here. Like there's this Biddens. I think it's pronounced Biddens. I never know. I always get it wrong, but my joke is that, it's Joe Biden's favorite plant. But just kidding. But out for all you Democrats out there, something to add to your containers maybe? So these guys, flower all season long. Pollinators like them. I kind of like this color combination of like the orange and the pink, and even that's like kind of like a tropical feel for us people in Wisconsin that want some tropical warm weather after this long winter. And when you're doing a container design, if you remember the spring stuff, we usually try to have a thriller. Remember someone asked about the thriller, filler, spiller? So one possible thriller you can think of is usually it's cool to have a different texture. So think about possibly even using a vegetable as a thriller. This is a bronze leaf fennel, so that will get to be pretty tall and could be a cool color combo. Or there's this jade princess millet. A lot of times we use a grass or a different texture like that as a thriller. And then you work the mounders and the spiller off of that. So just some thoughts on what you're buying. Another thing to look for is, you kind of usually are attracted to flowers, but also look for more buds. You almost want to look for a lot of buds, because you know that over time those will become your flowers when you plant it out, when it gets to be bigger, and these guys are going to fade away. So if you buy like a ton of flowers that are pretty far along, there's going to be a gap in your bloom perhaps, or just look for buds as much as flowers is what I'm trying to say, I guess. Another little tip is to think about, what we like to do here is think about the fall interest as we're doing the summer containers. So here's like a Sedge Carex Prairie Fire that might be a good thriller in here that'll look cool with what we have, but it'll also give us fall interest where we won't have to replace our thriller. Instead we could take out these guys and put in mums or something else like that, or asters or kale. Or the other thing sometimes I like to do is have the purple fountain grass as my thriller or in my mix somehow already. And then in fall I have like a bigger specimen of that purple fountain grass already built in. So like I try to build my fall interest in. You might not like the fall color scheme already, but you can use parts, and then when you redo your container in the fall, you don't have to redo the whole thing. So the other thing you could do is like there's a rudbeckia here. This guy happens to be a perennial, that you could add into your container and then have the fall interest too. So that's just another thought there. That made me think of something else, but I already forgot it. The other cool thing about plant shopping in general just is that there's all kinds of always funky, new, interesting plants. This is Twisted Celosia, which is a newer celosia. It has the funky coxcomb look to it, vibrant colors. We're going to use this in front of the well house as I copy a Chicago Botanic Garden design I saw last year. And Lindsay planted these crazy milk thistles from seed, so that's kind of a funky thriller plant that she's going to use in the cottage garden. So keep your eyes peeled for some of these funky things, and even if you kind of like old-fashioned plants, don't be afraid to throw something new in there. That's kind of the beauty of gardening, is trying a little something new every season and learning more stuff and just giving it a shot.
So thistles aren't just weeds, huh?
This thistle is beautiful. It is gorgeous. Yeah, just you might want to consider like not letting that seed out though, right? You might have a decorative flower, but it might be a good idea to not let it seed and spread all over the place. So good question. The last thing-ish I'm going to talk about is, vegetables. It's a great time to pick up your vegetables. Now the night temperatures are going to be about 50 degrees. GBBG does have a plant sale opening next Friday, and we kind of have all our stuff we're organizing here, and we'll bring it up and it'll be available for sale starting next Friday. So a little plug for that. And some of the plants we're selling are a few of our AAS winners that we really like. But when you go shopping, you'll see a lot of peppers, tomatoes. But what I wanted to say was, like, think about your garden space a little before you do your vegetable shopping, especially, because you always see those cool tags and get excited about different things, but you might not have the space for it all. So then you'll be a little disappointed when you have to shove everything closer together. You don't have the room for it. So think about your space. And then one thing I wanted to talk about was, like, tomatoes and peppers, oftentimes they get to be pretty big over the season, but you need to plant them really far apart. And in the beginning of the year, it's like this big giant gap in your garden. So consider basil or, smaller herbs or things that you can harvest, or like intercrop them and plant them between your plants, spaced out of course, and then you can harvest and eat on this basil until the tomato and the pepper get bigger and overpower, and then you'll probably want to take them out so they don't compete for sunlight. But you can kind of have a harvest before your tomato and pepper and other things that get ready later in the season. So that's just like a little vegetable gardening tip for you.
So what plants would you recommend people start planting into the ground this weekend?
That is a good question. You can pretty much plant out, I'd say, almost anything now, because the temperatures at night are supposed to be in the 50s, I noticed, and that's when we start to really bring our stuff out. You could, do a soil thermometer and check your temperature in the ground. It should be getting, pretty warm now though, but I wouldn't hesitate to plant pretty much any vegetable out there now. Yep. Okay. Yeah, so those are a couple things I was thinking about. You can see behind us we have all our plants that we're moving outside to harden off. So if you do have like things in your house, you can start bringing it in and out and then leave it out. Some of it we ran out of time, so we brought stuff out. But you could see, maybe Rachel can see on this salvia back here, there is sunburn. So that's what happens when you don't get a chance to take it out for an hour, get it acclimated to sun and wind and everything, and bring it back and forth. But your garden center should have done that stuff for you, so you shouldn't have to worry about it. But you can see we kind of ran out of time, so that'll get burnt, but it'll grow out of that stuff. So anyway, those are some tips. Happy early Memorial Day. I hope you can get out and shop and garden and add to the beauty of your yard and add to the produce in your larder. For more gardening tips, check out our Facebook or our website at gbbg.org.